So, Osni, during all that time, were there sightings, also observations of unidentified flying object phenomena?
When we were there with the people from São Carlos, with the Internet Protocol television from São Carlos, we were near that farm, up on the hill, and we saw an object there, but it was very far away, to the west. You could see it against the sunlight and quickly, as if it were a meteor. But it wasn't, because it was dark in color. It didn't emit light, but it left a kind of tail behind, moving from north to west. But the distance was so great that even their camera didn't capture it. We could see it, but the camera couldn't make out what was there. Outside,
There were other sightings at that time?
there was the probe. When I organized the unidentified flying object meeting here, the people from Sao Paulo landed at the site and saw 3 probes that passed by. In the west-northeast direction. It's at a low altitude too, 150, 100 meters, 80, 100 meters high, and there it was also by the riverbank.
It was really low, so really low.
It was low. It worked out that someone got up there at night. He was sleeping in a hammock in an open shed, you know. So he got up at night. Suddenly, he looked and saw there was no noise at all. Then he called the other colleague. I don't remember the names of the boys who were there. He called the other colleague, and both followed, but they didn't record it.
They just observed the same phenomenon.
They just observed the phenomenon. And, well, there are my own personal sightings here. The first was when I was 12 years old. It was near the old train station. I have an uncle who,
From Santa Barbara?
From Barbara, an uncle who was a gravedigger. And one Saturday, my cousin and I, his son, went to take him his lunch, and on the way back it was really hot and sunny. There's a slope there, a difference of about 10 meters between where the cemetery is down below. And the tracks passed by, and the part that came here to the city center, but it's 4 blocks from Central Square, Rio 5. And it's grassy. That whole slope was covered in grass, and there were some big mango trees up high, and we sat there too. It was hot and all. We were chatting there, and my cousin really liked to look at some lights and would knit something, like a little dog, a kitten, and so on. And I looked to the east side where Villa Rumi is, where the Rumi family lives, the owners of Rumi Industries. And I saw something similar. Do you remember those buttons used on old jackets? They were a bit concave and had a thick edge at the bottom.
Yes, yes.
About 160 meters in diameter, with windows, signs of large doors, and so on.
It was huge.
So it was big, and it was below. It was following the clouds that passed by at about 600 meters, 400, 500 meters, depending on the wind, right? And the wind was coming from the northeast to the southwest. It was coming and going up above the clouds. While the wind was in that direction, I could only see the clouds. But suddenly it caught an air current that comes over the stream, coming from east to northeast, northwest. Then the clouds changed direction, and the ship kept going for about 3 or 4 more minutes. When they noticed that the clouds had moved away from below, they turned almost 90 degrees and hid in the clouds again. That was just me and my cousin who saw it. Well, I don't know if anyone else saw it at the time. We didn't ask. Do you remember the day I made dinner by the pool? Did you come? I remember that day after you guys came up here. It was me, Ralph the baby, and Ralph's girlfriend coming along. When I was crossing the little creek down there, a shadow passed over the creek. A shadow about 80 centimeters in diameter crossed over, and I didn't have anything in my hand. I could have recorded it, remember? I told you I remember that was one, and then another more recently. I lived in a neighborhood by City Hall in the municipal, the tall building on the avenue. And I had already gone to sleep, my wife too, and in the guest house her nephew lived. He got up to smoke at 4 in the morning, and the baby woke me up at that time. Oh, wake up. I'm scared because they want to take me and I don't want to go. And there was a light in the room, inside my room. And she said there were two tall beings dressed in white who invited her to go and that they were doctors. And she got scared. She called me when I managed to wake up. It took her a little while to wake me up, maybe because of some effect they put on me so I wouldn't interfere. When I woke up, it was still light, but the beings were gone. I asked, what if I didn't want to go? They said they were doctors, but I repeated, what if I didn't want to go? I got scared and didn't go. It was so good, so then I went back to sleep, and so did she. When morning arrives, her nephew comes and says, Ruti, Ruti. Man, I went through a lot. I was scared last night. Then I asked why. Then I went out here in the backyard to smoke, and I was in the corner of the house here, and I heard a little noise, and I saw lights flashing in the backyard. I went up there and there was a huge thing above the house, about 50 meters above the house, and it was flashing lights and all that. This happened in what year, more or less? It was around 2000 or maybe 2015, 2016, around that time. He got desperate, ran home, and hid under the covers with his head covered. He only came to talk to me and saw it in the morning when it got light. And the last one was here in 2020. I think it was April 20th, 2020, when this entrance roundabout was being renovated. You guys must have passed by it here. And I used to live in a corner house right there where they were working. It was about a month before the inauguration. Right there, and there was a big machine, a big excavator, because there's a small stream running very low there, right? They were clearing debris and anything else there so they could close it up again. Exactly. It went up. The machine got tangled in the SNI cable from the telephone and internet network, because it was turning the corner. And the cable had a pole on the other side of the street just to support it, and they had to remove that pole from there and move it somewhere else. That's when the machine got tangled up and there was that loud noise. Looking up where the machine was tangled, I saw the object passing by. I tried talking to my neighbor beside me, but the machine noise made it hard to understand. I couldn't call Baby to bring me the phone to film because with the noise from the machine, it wasn't possible, so I just kept watching so I wouldn't miss it. So he came from the southwest to the northeast at a reasonable speed, about 10,000 feet. It was a white matte cylinder that reflected neither sunlight nor the sky, just as you see, blue, with nothing else. To the east, over there to the southeast, there were some patches of clouds, and we were there. 10,000 feet, maybe 10,000 more. I think it was at 10,000 feet. The object was at 35,000 or 40,000 feet. The sky was clear and blue, with nothing else visible. The April sun already sets farther over here.
Charutoide stuck like this.
Looked like a white cigarette. Me, when I'm used to it, I also pilot airplanes and fly. He must have been at about 10,000 feet, around 3,000 meters in that range, and was moving at less than 200 kilometers per hour. And it came in this direction, and I was following it. It suddenly came and turned. On its own axis, about 80 to 90 degrees, it even reached 90. I marked it well because there were two rods, and the television antenna is really high there because it's lowered, right? Really high. And it passed by one, and before reaching the direction of the other, it spun on its own axis at 80 degrees and kept going for another 3 or 4 minutes. Suddenly, as if there was a cloth the color of the sky here, it started to disappear behind it until it was gone. There's no noise, I don't know, because with the machine...
It was very loud too.
Right, yeah, but if there was any noise, because the plane itself was louder than that. We could hear well, but with the noise the machine made, we couldn't hear anything.
Just like here at your house, you have a ham radio set up here, right? There's a telescope, there's a bunch of stuff, and sometimes on those frequencies, the ham radio ones. Did you ever receive any communication about an unidentified flying object sighting, anything like that?
There's a case that's reported there, which I was talking about with some colleagues who were here near Botakatu in that mountain range. And there's a little station there where the train stops just to pick up milk and so on before continuing. And they were sitting there because they had walked through some caves and so on, and they were sitting near the station when they saw an object there, something different and so on, one from Escoid. It was spinning around the place, coming close to the mountain, going back and so on. And when a plane came from Annapolis, a fighter jet, the fighter jet was made a fool of. The object was here, the fighter jet was coming. And when it got close, the object almost disappeared so fast and was behind the plane. The pilot kept searching and returning, but the object would move elsewhere and wait, preventing him from getting close.
Then, when the fighter jet left, it changed position.
But in the blink of an eye, the guys were telling me over the radio.
Over the radio.
And after about 15 minutes, the object went up vertically until it disappeared, and the fighter jet went up a bit and then gave up, turned back.
Let me remind you of something. I remember that CPEX had a fragment of an unidentified flying object from that silver rain case in Campinas. Do you remember that? Did you get to see it?
No, I got to see the fragment, but after that, I don't know if they sent it for testing, and the fragment never came back. If I'm not mistaken, Oswaldo can confirm.
But it was actually a big piece, right?
It's reasonable, about 7 by 5 centimeters.
And like this, in fragments. Even at CPEX, I think it was more the one from Campinas, right?
Yes, landing marks that were cut out.
Footprint marks, right?
That was cut out like we did back in São Vicente. These are the most recent ones, the Kajuru case, that city Kajuru.
Even
Kajuru, the politician's nickname there, right? And there it was interesting because he wove. Maybe there was an abduction, but since the person doesn't remember, several times the object appeared and all, and it landed on top of a wall. There, where there was a big spring and the women sometimes left home, they preferred to wash clothes there at the spring. She said that when she reached the spring, the object descended, so she grabbed her things and left. The only thing she remembers is that the object stayed there, and several other times they appeared on the farm in different places. According to the people there, it came down in the middle of the pasture. There were some cows and all, but they didn't mention any beings. But this happened many times over there, and people would go to the police station. And the police chief got in touch with CPEX asking me to go there because he became aware of that report that São Carlos did for Internet Protocol Television.
there were several cases where the police got in touch with CPEX and asked the group for help to carry out these investigations. I even remember that there were some people from the Municipal Guard of Americana who saw something. It was in Santa Barbara.
It was. Did you guys already cross the little bridge here before entering the roundabout? You did, right? Yes, it was on that bridge. They were conducting an investigation in the neighborhood over there, and when they entered the 304 here, they saw several objects spinning like this, one on top of the other, and so on, different colors and all that. They followed along the stream and disappeared.
And even documents I remember from CPEX, official documents reporting these unidentified flying object sightings.
That's right, too. And there was more. Let me just remember another case. Let me see if I remember exactly how it happened. A case they were called to investigate. Well, there were several in São Pedro, but this one in Piracicaba. Man, it's slipping my mind. If I remember later, I'll mention it.
There was one in Limera, which was a landing. Do you remember that one? There was a landing in Limera.
To check, there were marks on the grass, on the lawn. It was a vacant lot on a corner like this, and being the city closer to the airport neighborhood of Limera there, and it left those marks and all. But the people, I didn't get any direct information from witnesses who saw it. I stayed. He had contact with people who told him that they saw it and so on and so on, and the mark was there on the grass.
I remember they said they saw objects in the area, luminous ones, but they didn't see any objects landing, right? No, they only found the marks there. Later on,
Witnesses saw them land.
oh, they saw them land.
Yeah, but they didn't give
a statement.
They didn't give a statement.
So there was a witness when you cheated.
He's mocked, right?
Back then it was really complicated, right? Talking about UFOs.
Many people didn't want publicity about what he saw, right? Then they'll just think I'm crazy.
OSNI, you're 81 today after 81 years. Are you still lucid? For you, what are they? Because you investigated, you talked to people, you had your own experiences. So, in your conviction, in your perception, what are they?
To say they are extraterrestrial beings or also intraterrestrial, which are still considered extra because they have intraterrestrial bases.
And you also like that part about geology, minerals, rocks?
Including gold prospecting. I have equipment for that, a detector.
For metals?
Exactly. There isn't any more, since without transportation I can't leave my wife alone, right?
So, as for unidentified flying object evidence, do you have anything that you kept from your research?
No, all the material I have are reports and such that are there from the encounter, the first and only one I had, right? They're there. Let me see if there's anything else. Well, Ditorama, it's all there with photos and everything. That one was interesting too. That researcher from Praia Grande, I don't know if he's still alive.
Praia Grande, yeah.
What was his name? He was much older than me. He accompanied me in the Ditorama research. And me, for names, I'm Antonio. I'm not good with names. There's no use trying. Sometimes it just comes to me.
But right now, I can't remember. But he was a professor. He was an astronomy professor.
Not astronomy, and I don't think he was a professor. He had a farm there and all, and he even had photos that looked like magnetic ships in the pictures he gave me, which landed on his farm. He must have been contacted.
That was in Iturama or in Praia Grande, Praia Grande, Praia Grande.
He discovered I was headed to Iturama.
Then he wanted to go with me.
He wanted to come with me, stayed at my house, and the next day we left for Iturama.
But then, guys, it's like this, so we don't tire Osni out too much, right? Since we've already been here for a long time, right? Talking about this subject, I wanted to thank Osni in advance for this, for sharing his knowledge and research, right? Which he basically did like this. A researcher who contributed a lot to CPEX at the time, was involved in several cases, even classic Brazilian ones like the Varginha case and other important cases here in the region. So Osni, I wanted to thank you for your willingness.
I thank you because if the knowledge died with me, there would be no advantage at all. It would almost only benefit me, and shared knowledge
Is definitely more useful. So if you like this interview, click the like button, leave your comments, and see you in the next episode of Live Podcast, an interview with Edison Boaventura.